Hey guys, English Dragon. This is my Fan of the Month video for last month, actually, for January, because it's February now. And the question is a really interesting one. It is, what do I prefer? Do I prefer pad or do I prefer stick in regards to fighting games? Now, I'm one of these kind of really old arcade rugrats, okay? I was growing up playing arcade games, and back in the day with arcade games, you had the stick, and you had the buttons, and you'd be kind of doing, this kind of motion. And sometimes you'd have like the trackballs and things like that. But normally it was a stick and buttons. So that's what I was kind of used to in arcades. But I was quite young when, the whole arcade scene was going off and everything. And then with consoles, it was all, control pad. But then again, the first console I had actually used a joystick. It had a joystick, and joysticks were kind of like big things like this, and you hold the stick like this, and then you'd have the button there. So you'd be kind of doing like this kind of thing, it was really, really awkward. But the first fighting game I played on a console, like first proper fighting game I played on a console, I used a control pad. I used a pad. And I think for a lot of people it was hard to transition from arcade games over to console. I think they found that quite hard because with arcade games it was stick and buttons like this, and then with the console games it was all controller. So I think some people found it really hard. I did, because it was a long time from playing the arcade games to playing the console games, so I didn't really have a problem with it. But a long time ago I entered a Street Fighter 4 competition, and it was around the time that I was getting really deep into fighting games, trying to get really good. And I won a fight pad, a Street Fighter fight pad. I can't remember the maker, so I do apologise for that. But it was really, really good. It was a really good pad, really responsive. It was a bit light, which I didn't like. It was a bit light, but it had that very nice sort of Sega Saturn design to it. Everyone loves the Sega Saturn pad, don't they? They all love it because that's like they say that's the best pad for fighting games. All those. It's hard to argue against because it's a lovely pad, and this pad is very similar. I think I've done a video of it before. But I really like that. But like I said, I was getting into fighting games, so I wanted a stick. Everyone talks about sticks. Everyone says sticks are like the best. If you really want to play fighting games properly, you've got to get yourself a stick. So I started to invest in a stick, and I knew this guy. We don't really talk that much anymore, but really, really nice guy. And he let me pay so much every week to have this stick, this really nice, pristine arcade stick, and I've still got it. It's in storage. I mean, when I take it out, it's like a ritualistic thing, and I always keep it like in top condition and everything. I'll never sell it. I'll never part with it ever. But I started to use the stick, and the one thing I will say with stick and pad is that there were certain things on pad that were a bit tricky, certain setups, certain combos. One I found in Street Fighter, for instance, was Balrog's headbutt. His headbutt into Super or headbutt into Ultra. I could normally pull that off on pad, but it was one of those risky things for me. If I got a trade on a headbutt with Balrog, then I'd go for it because you're going to get it. But into combo, jump in, bam, 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 boom, boom, headbutt, and then into Super or Ultra was always awkward. I found that really awkward, and you know what? It was about maybe 50-50 I'd pull it off. When I did that with a stick, I think it was the second time I tried to do it with a stick, came out just like that. Perfect, absolutely perfect. And so I realised that with the stick, certain things, for me at least, in my opinion, certain things worked better. And they came out better. And I have to say that when I used that stick and I played Virtua Fighter 5, just played so lovely. And it felt strangely natural. For me at least, it felt strangely natural to use the arcade stick to play Virtua Fighter 5, or to play any 3D fighting game actually. But with Virtua Fighter it worked really well. Things that I could do on pad, fairly well, I could do really exemplary well on the stick, So I found that with the stick was really good for when you were doing really technical things, really technical setups, really technical combos, links and things like this. That's where I found the stick came into its own. But me, I still use a pad. I mean, I think around that time I got the pad and I started to get really deep into Street Fighter. I started to get really good at Street Fighter. I got Street Fighter 4, played as Cody, loads. I uploaded some of my awful videos on YouTube, some of which I've had to delete, unfortunately. Because of my contract with Machinima, I've had to delete some of those videos. But I think some of them are still up. But at one point I started to get really good, and I started to learn from some really, really good players. But as fate would have it, fate's a bit of a bit of an ass, and fate threw something my way, and my family situation changed. It changed dramatically, and it's changed again. Recently it's changed again. And so because of that, I just didn't have the time to play fighting games. I didn't have the time to play them all the time, and so I kind of stopped using the stick. And another reason why, the stick's very loud. You know, it's like it's really clunky, it's really loud, and you know the clicks. For me, that's quite satisfying. But again, my family situation changed, so unfortunately, it was too loud to use the stick. I couldn't use it. So I stopped. I stopped using the stick, and I stopped getting so deep into fighting games. You know, and now I kind of play fighting games more casually. If I'm being absolutely honest, I do. That doesn't mean that, you know, balance is not an issue for me, because I love the balance, but I still play them a little bit more casually now than I did, because I just don't have the time to like play them all the time and get really deep with them. So I think for me, if things hadn't changed, I probably would have got really deep into Street Fighter and used the stick a lot more. But my preference, my personal preference, is pad, and the only reason that is because I just don't have time to learn the stick, because it's so difficult. You know, when you become accustomed to something, it's very difficult to change that and use something else. And like I say, when I was using the stick, it was hard. It was hard at the start to try and get used to. But eventually I started to get used to things. And I started to see how much better it was. And I think if I'd have stuck with it, I think I probably would still be a stick user now. But I think it was just because I didn't stick to it. So what I would say is my personal preference is pad. My personal preference is pad. But I can see the benefits of stick. I can really see the benefits. And what I would say is, if you're serious about fighting games, I'd say try both. You know, try pad. I mean, there was that guy who entered the Street Fighter 4 tournament, and he like entered with a PS3 pad, was it, or something? You know. So I would say, see what works for you. But I think there could be advantages with stick, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it goes back to the traditions. I mean, if you're used to playing games in the arcade, I think a stick just suits you fine, you know, to be absolutely honest with you. But I think there is something a little bit better about it. Maybe it's sturdier. Maybe the clicks and stuff, maybe that's, you know, because with a lot of fighting games, me especially, sounds are very important. So when I play Killer Instinct, it's all about the sounds. That's what I go on. I could close my eyes and play Killer Instinct like that if I wanted, because I always go on the sounds. I go on the sounds and things like that. There's a rhythm, there's a beat to the fight. There's a rhythm to each character. And that's what I go by. So sometimes, you know, I'm playing Killer Instinct and someone will talk to me and I'll just carry on doing the combo like this, because it's all about the sound. As long as I can hear, that's what it's all about. So when my hearing goes, that's it. You know, I'll probably kill myself, because that'd be horrible. But no, guys, there you go. My personal preference is pad, but I can definitely see the benefits of stick. And in my honest opinion, I'd say try both. But I feel there is probably more to gain from stick. That's what I personally feel anyway. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to win Fan of the Month, you've got to get onto my fan page, okay? Not Twitter. You have to go onto my fan page, get on there and like my stuff, share my stuff, and comment. You get different points based on what you do. Okay, so when you like a post, you get 1 point. If you comment, you get 5 points. And if you share a post, or share a video, or whatever, you get 10 points. And then what I do at the end of the month, I round up all the points to see who's won. And it's as simple as that. It's quite a nice system. I quite like it. I really do. And even though, you know, there's not like loads of people that enter, it's not the point, because I just love giving something back. You know, you guys sub to me, so I want to give something back. And that's, you know, that's special to me, you know. It's special. Anyway, going on. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, of course. I don't know if you want to, but for the time being, it's the English Dragon saying to you,